Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of whatever I feel like making here on Tabletop Roleplaying Gays. This is the first episode of a very brand new series that I'm going to start called Fantasy Fusion Fiasco. I got this idea watching a video of Dina Norlund. I'll link her stuff in the description. She's a really cool artist and just all around neat person on YouTube, and she has this thing that she does. It's called Random Creature Design, and she has a list of, or like, a bunch of animal names, and she gets 3 of them, and she combines them into a creature. And I thought that would be really cool to do with D&D monsters, so I asked her if it was okay if I copied that general idea, since I technically got the idea from watching her stuff, and she was like, yeah, of course. So, thank you, Dina. Now I get to do this. I've already done one, just to test if I could do it now. I apologize. There aren't going to be any drawings. I'm not that great at it. Well, great at drawing traditionally. I can do abstract stuff, but... So here, we have I've compiled a list in, just Google Spreadsheets, of all of the monster stat blocks I have readily accessible. So anything in Volo's, the Monster Manual, or Mordenkainen's Tome. It took me a little bit. I couldn't find a comprehensive D&D monster randomizer. I have a random number. There's 1 through 711, and I'll do 3 of them, maybe 2 depending. And then here's an example of one I've already done. Now this is the Shadow Flumpstiff, because I couldn't think of a better name. This is a combination of a Dow, so like the Earth Genie, Shadow Mastiff, which I think is in Volo's, and a Flump, which is like the little hive-mindy tentacle jellyfish with little eyeball stalks, and they're cool. The interesting thing about this is, instead of just aesthetically design, I have to come up with a general aesthetic design, and I try to reflect that through the, like the stats. So, I gave it the same general body, well, theoretically, I don't have any art, the same general body as the Shadow Mastiff, but instead of, like, just shadow, it's shadow and, like, sand and earth, kind of like, if you've ever seen Rise of the Guardians pitch, how it's, like, shadow sand, and, like, it poofs in and out like shadow, but it like has like the impact of sand. And I gave it the tentacles and like eyeball stalks and the general presence of mind that a flump does. And I tried to make things reflect that. The AC is now 14, hit points 86 or 14d10. I don't remember the math to do the averages versus the dice, so I just kind of guessed. It has a speed of 40 feet from the Mastiff, fly and burrow 20. They're much higher for the other things, but considering it's not super in the body of either the Flump or the Dow, I dropped those both down. Skills, I made it reasonable. Perception +3, stealth +6, or Chrono +4, those are from each of them. Damage resistances, those are from the Shadow Mastiff, because it has the most of the same body. Damage vulnerability, psychic, I kept that because that's the general presence of mind of a flump. And condition immunity is petrified because it is partially, if not mostly, stone and sand. Senses, it has dark vision and a passive perception of 13. That's just a balanced from all of them. A telepathy of 60 feet because presence of mind of the flump. Challenge rating of 7, might not be work. Ethereal awareness and keen hearing and smell, those are from the Shadow Mastiff. I kept those. Elemental demise, that's just a thematic thing, really doesn't have anything to do with like combat or stats, but that's from the Dow. Earthflight is from the Dow because if it's sand and shadow, it can just disintegrate and move. Sure-footed because now it's sand and stone, it's heavy. Shadow blend, I kept the same Shadow Mastiff thing. Sunlight weakness, also from them. Actions, it has the melee weapon attack to bite as the Mastiff, and tendrils, I gave it a little like kind of displacer beastie tendrils. The flump things, and I put them on the back. I haven't run this, but that's just to give you a general idea of how exactly it is that I'm doing this, and yeah. So, with all that being said, let's generate some numbers. Now, I said I might do 1 or 2 or 3, because 3 might be a little much, because some of these monsters are already so specialized. It might be difficult to do 3 of them together without it getting muddy or Frankenstein-y and kind of weird. The whole general theme of this is like, oh, Wizard was like, gotta make new things be better than the things we already have in this world, and so weird things like this came about. Some of them will work, some of them won't. Some of them will just be like, it's trying to take the best of each one's, the shadow abilities, and the sturdiness, and like the mind of the Shadow Mastiff down Flump respectively, and putting them together. And it might be pretty dangerous, but then you're going to have like a crocodile, a bullywug, a goblin, and it's just going to be this little like nasty thing that runs around and bites people. It hurts, but so depending. If we add the third and it doesn't feel like we'll work in the third well, we'll try. So number generator, let's see. 133, ba-da-da-bow. That is violet fungus. This could be cool. Already might be neat. Violet fungus, boo-da-da-bow. 591. I think at this point we're in... I think I did Monster Manual. I think I did Volo's next. I think we're in Volo's territory once we get up here. It was 591, right? Yeah. Excuse me. Rutterkin. I don't remember what those are. It's a good thing I have the books. No, Volo's is full of big ol' evil things. That might get a little... Actually, those might be from Mordenkainen's at this point. Which one did I get? 668. 668. Ogre Chain Brute. Hope. I'm going to write down in... Oh, I'm going to turn the camera off. Write down all the stat blocks for all of these things. And then I'll see if I have an idea. And then I'll get back to y'all with that. Be right back. Alrighty, welcome back. So, figured out some things. First, let's just go through all of the creatures. And I guess I'll start with the violet fungus, because I have this one. So, that's the violet fungus. It's kind of like a tentacly morel mushroom. I don't know how it's pronounced. I'm bad at things. So, violet fungus. It says, this purplish mushroom uses root-like feelers growing from its base to creep across cavern floors. The four stalks protruding from a violet fungi's central mass are used to lash out at prey, rotting flesh with the slightest touch. Any creature killed by a violet fungus decomposes rapidly. A new violet fungus sprouts from the moldering corpse, growing to full size in 2d6 days. It has an AC of 5, 18 or 48 hit points, speed of 5 feet, strength of -4, dex -5, con +0, intelligence -5, wisdom -4, charisma -5. It is immune to being blinded, deafened, and frightened. It has blind sight with 30 feet, which means that's blind without beyond that radius. It has a passive perception of 6, doesn't speak any languages, is a CR of 1/4, has false appearance. While the violet fungus remains motionless, it is indistinguishable from an ordinary fungus, and as multi-attack, the fungus makes 1d4 rotting touch attacks, which is a melee weapon attack. It's +2 to hit, has a reach of 10 feet, which is neat. It has one creature for a target, and on a hit, it does 4 or 1d8 necrotic damage. I like where this one could possibly go. So, then we also have the... Which one's next in the list? I think we got Rutterkin next. So, that gross Mama Jama. I am in... Oh, I'm very sorry about that. I'm next. Not this one, but the one on this page. That is a Rutterkin, and they're basically a diseased, gross body that protects the abyss from non-demons. They gather in a crowd and surge forward because they have a thing called crippling fear, and basically when there's a bunch of them, I think it's every 3 of them, if a non-demon starts their turn within 30 feet, they can be frightened, and it gets pretty rough if you have like a crowd of them. But they have an AC of 12, 37 or 5d8 plus 15 hit points, speed of 20 feet, strength of +2, dex +2, con +3, intelligence -3, wisdom +1, charisma -2. They are resistant to cold, fire, and lightning. They are immune to poison. They are condition immune. Well, they're immune to poison damage. And condition immunities. They're immune to being charmed, frightened, and poisoned. They have dark vision of 120 feet. Excuse me. Passive perception of 11. They can understand abyssal, but they can't speak. CR of 2. Not going to read into crippling fear because I'm not going to use it, and it's a big block of text. And they have a bite attack, which is, I'm assuming with the mouth arm. One of their things is like a big bulbous and has like a mouth in the palm. Kind of like the Pale Man from Pan's Labyrinth, but instead of an eye, it's a mouth. It's +4 hit, reach of 5 feet. As one target. On a hit, it does 12 or 3d6 +2 piercing damage. If the target is a creature, it must succeed on a DC 13 Constitution saving throw against disease or become poisoned. Here's the real kicker. At the end of each long rest, so this is long-lasting poison, the poison target can repeat the saving throw, ending the effect on itself on a success. If the target is reduced to 0 hit points while poisoned this way, it dies and instantly transforms into a living abyssal wretch. The transformation of the body can be undone only by a wish spell. That's rough. DC 13 isn't too hard to beat, but if you mess up and get knocked out, like, even if you're knocked unconscious, not killed, if you're reduced to 0 hit points while in a fight, at any point before you, so like you fail, after your next long rest, you get to try again. I'm assuming that you can technically use Lesser Restoration to get rid of this. It's poison. Not sure. I'll have to look into that, but that is rough. Really, really rough. And then we have the Ogre Chain Brute, which sadly there isn't a picture for, because I feel like it would be cool, but you can also kind of use your imagination. An Ogre Chain Brute wields a great spiked chain. It swings this chain with both hands in a wide circle around itself to knock foes off their feet. Alternatively, it can swing the chain in a crushing overhead smash that's nearly impossible to block or deflect. It has an AC of 11, 59 hit points, or 7d10 plus 21, has a speed of 40 feet, strength +4, dex -1, con +3, intelligence -3, wisdom -2, charisma -2, dark vision of 60 feet, passive perception of 8, it speaks common and giant, and is a CR 3. It has fist attacks. I'm probably not going to use those for a very specific reason that I will explain. Chain sweep. The ogre swings its chain, and every creature within 10 feet of it must make a DC 14 dexterity saving throw. On a failed saving throw, a creature takes 8 or 1d8 plus 4 bludgeoning damage and is knocked prone. On a successful save, the creature takes half as much damage and isn't knocked prone. Chain smash, which will recharge of 6. It's melee weapon attack, +6 to hit, reach of 10 feet, 1 target. Hit is a 13 or 2d8 plus 4 bludgeoning damage, and the target must succeed on a DC 14 Constitution saving throw or be knocked unconscious for 1 minute. It's a +6 to hit, pretty easy to hit, reach 10 feet, DC 14 con or be knocked unconscious for a minute. The unconscious target repeats the saving throw of it if it takes damage, and at the end of each of its turn, ending the effect on itself on a success. That could be pretty rough. So, what I'm thinking is, basically, we're going to have an Ogre Chain Brute that the Weird Wacky Wizard that we are inspiring Fantasy Fusion Fiascos off of tried to combine it with a Rutterkin to make it more durable and basically an unstoppable plague beast. So it's going to be a Ogre Chain Brute body. Well, I'll break it down. 2 normal arms, and also have like that weird bitey arm tendril things, probably on the shoulders, or maybe like a mouth in the stomach or something weird and cool from the Rutterkin. That'll give us probably not fists, which I'll explain. The chain sweep, chain smash, keep that. Keep most of the physical things like strength, dex, con, and then Intelligence, Wisdom, Charisma all replaced with something else for a specific reason. Then we hop over to, I think it's on 136, Rutterkin. That's the Nabasu. Rutterkin. Give them the, maybe not all cold, fire, and lightning resistance. Maybe 2, maybe 1 of them. We'll see. Because I'm going to say, like, with all, like, they move the skin texture onto the ogre to make it more durable and beefy. Definitely giving it the bite attack with, like, the weird hand thing, because that's rough and that would be cool. Condition immunities, charmed, frightened, poisoned, I'll keep those, and damage immunities, poison, I'll keep that. And then we hop over to violet fungus, and here's where the kicker is. So I'm going to say that, lore-wise, the crazy wizard created the Rutterkin Ogre Chain Brute combo, and it was just too volatile, and it died. But threw it into a cave system to just die and rot and get rid of his failure, and a violet fungus took over. And maybe it didn't die, but it basically infested it and was kind of like a cordyceps for ants. At least I think they're cordyceps. I'm not sure. I don't remember the terminology. But basically took over and is inhabiting it and controlling the brain. So it has the physical properties of the thing, but has the terrible intelligence, wisdom, and charisma of the fungi, because the fungi is the new brain. And one of the arms, I'm going to say, fell off and is the rotting touch tendril tentacle things from the violet fungus. And so that way it can make the attacks, but it also has like enough presence to be able to grab the chain, or like knot in through the different links and swing it. I am going to give it blind sight though, because mentally, I'll give it blind sight and dark vision. So within 30 feet in the dark it can see, but any time past 30 feet it cannot, whether dark or light. And yeah, that's the general game plan. I'll throw up something like a rough mock-up sketch and then explain my mock-up sketch. I'll throw up a rough design, bits, everything, and then I'll get back to you guys and then explain my thinking. Be right back. So as you and your party wander through the cave system, torches alight, staring at your feet, trying to ensure that you don't trip and stumble down the steep incline, you walk past a fairly grotesque and infested with fungi corpse. But as you get closer, you think you see it shift. But you decide it's probably just the haziness from being underground for so long. So you continue walking, and a hulking brute of a body covered in thick, bubbly skin with a large spiked chain in one hand and a missing arm covered in tentacles and a skull covered in fungi, specifically where the eyes used to be. I need you to roll initiative against the main event. Sorry, that was just a fun little thing, trying to figure out get the imagery going. Up against the Violet Rutter Brute. Okay, so this is a large giant, unaligned. Now, Ogre Chain Brute is chaotic evil as well as the Rutterkin, but because I was deciding that the brain and mind and nervous system and whatnot were replaced by the Violet Fungi, it is unaligned. Its whole thing is just, survive. Keep going. You kill something, more moral fungi sprout out of it. You keep the species going. Next we have an armor class of 12. Just because I went with like the thicker, hider skin of the Rutterkin, which is an armor class of 12, so I kept that. Next we move to the hit points, 76 or 90-10 plus 27. Excuse me, it's every hit die times your con, so, well, for the plus, so plus 27, 90-10, 9 times the plus 3 for con. That's how we got that. And the 70, well, if you subtract it and you get the 50, it's 5.5 times 9. So you get to, if I did my math right, which I might not have, 76. Speed of 35 feet. I changed that because even though the Ogre Chain Brute has 40 feet, it's dead, it's decomposing, and because of the thicker skin of the Rutterkin, it's a little bit heavier, so I dropped it down by 5 feet. Strength is 19 plus 4, kept that for the Ogre Chain Brute because that's the main body. Dex, I boosted up to, or not boosted up, I flattened out at having no bonuses at just plus 0 because we have a -1 with an 8 for the Ogre Chain Brute and a 15 plus 2 for the Rutterkin, and since we're combining all of that, I just flattened it out at 0. Con, 17 plus 3. I took that from, I took that from the Rutterkin. Both have plus 3, but 17 implies more. Then Intelligence, -5. Took that from the Violet Fungi. -4 for Wisdom, took that from Violet Fungus. And the 6, -2 for Charisma. I made it a little bit higher because even though it's still not effective, I made it higher because this thing's intimidating. You're like, oh, it's a dead body, and suddenly it's attacking you. Damage resistances, lightning. Now, lightning, I got that one from the Rutterkin. It is resistant to cold, fire, and lightning. Lightning I attributed to the resistance, like the electrical resistance of the skin of the Rutterkin. I don't know if that's actually a thing or if I'm just over-sciencing something, but whatever. And then cold and fire, I dropped those resistances because since most of it is kept up and running by the fungi, most fungi are susceptible to extreme heat or cold, and I figured this might be no exception, so I dropped those, so it's not resistance because I feel like that's something that would be a weakness, and I didn't feel like making it a vulnerability because otherwise this thing would be dropped like that. Damage immunities, poison, kept that from the Rutterkin because considering this is also undead, technically speaking, it was a dead body infested by the violet fungi. Other than keeping the nervous system going, the body and like the stomach and all that jazz, that's not really super affected by any poison, so I made it immune to poison. Condition immunities, immune to being blinded, charmed, deafened, frightened, and poisoned. Blinded, charmed, deafened, frightened, those are because there's no real working brain anymore. It just moves and attacks. There's no real thought process. It can't really be scared or blinded or charmed or deafened because it doesn't really have any working organs other than like moving muscles and all that jazz. Senses, blind sight 30 feet. It's blind beyond that radius because that's from the fungi because that's the brain. Passive perception of 6, really low. Language is none. Doesn't really, it's a fungi. That's that. Challenge 5. Ogre Chain Brute's 3. Abyssal Wretch is 2, and the Violet Fungi is 1/4. And I bumped it up just because with the various range and the things that I've shifted and the things that have been improved, I feel like a 5 might be a little high, but this thing could also dish out some serious damage. So like for 5th level characters, this thing could be pretty rough, I think. Maybe it's a 4, maybe it's a 5. I can figure out with playtesting. We have False Appearance. While motionless, the Violet Rutter Brute is indistinguishable from an ordinary decomposing corpse. Now I did that because while it'll look really gross, because of the Rutterkin skin and all that jazz, excuse me, jeezums, since the Violet Fungus is the brain of this new organism that was disposed of and then taken over by, I'm going to say probably like a new branched off species of violet fungus, it's used to the idea of sitting still, waiting until something, instead of wasting your time moving and trying to sneak up on stuff and all that jazz with like a movement of 5 feet. So I put that in there because I thought that'd be cool too. Like they're just walking along and then bam. Bite. This is from, I still haven't decided whether it's like a stomach mouth or like tentacle mouths on the Rutterkin, like on the Rutterkin. It's up to people. If people want to draw these too, by the way, and like send me them, and I'll like post or retweet or whatever, that would be awesome, because I really want to see people's like takes on these. Bite is a melee weapon attack. It's +6 to hit, because I'm using the strength from it. Strength plus proficiency, so +6. Reach of 5 feet, and has one target. On a hit, it does 18 or 46 plus 4 piercing damage. If the target is a creature, it must succeed on a DC 13 Constitution saving throw against disease or become poisoned. At the end of each long rest, the poison target can repeat the saving throw, ending the effect on itself on a success. If the target is reduced to 0 hit points while poisoned this way, it dies and instantly transforms into a living abyssal wretch. Transformation of the body can be undone only by a wish spell. And here's another thing. The target technically dies, and then it is transformed into an abyssal wretch. So even if you use the wish spell, or if a wish spell or something like something that creates the effects of a wish spell, you undo the transformation, but now you still have your dead friend that you now have to resurrect, which is interesting. Chain Sweep. The Violet Rutter Brute swings its chain on every creature within 10 feet of it must make a DC 14 Dex saving throw. On a failed saving throw, a creature takes 8 or 1d8 plus 4 bludgeoning damage and is knocked prone. On a successful save, the creature takes half as much damage and isn't knocked prone. Because it has all of these cool, interesting like things, I didn't feel like I needed to tweak the damage on that, especially because, I mean, its strength hasn't really changed, and neither has the chain. It's just the same attack. There's nothing that would need to be changed for that. Oops. I need to get rid of that A. That's a formatting thing. Chain Smash, Recharge 6. So for those of you that don't know, Recharge 6 or Recharge anything means that you use it and it's done. But at the beginning of a turn, you roll a d6, and if it is anywhere within that range, you get it back. So like, if I use Chain Smash and then I roll then next turn I roll a 6, I have it back. If it was Recharge 4-6, 4, 5, or 6 would bring it back. It's a melee weapon attack, +6 to hit, reach of 10 feet, one target, hit 13, 2d8 plus 4 bludgeoning damage, and the target must succeed on a DC 14 Constitution saving throw or be knocked unconscious for 1 minute. And that's not a reducing to 0 hit points unconscious. That's just a can't think. That's just like a status effect, unconscious. The unconscious target repeats the saving throw if it takes damage, and at the end of each of its turn, ending the effect on itself on a success. Then there's multi-attack. The Violet Rutter Brute makes 2d4 Rotting Touch attacks. So for actions, it can take Bite, Chain Sweep, Chain Smash, or multi-attack. Can't do multiples. The Violet Rutter Brute makes 2d4 Rotting Touch attacks, so you could get up to 8 of these swings, which is kind of nasty, which is why I didn't tweak the damage. +2 to hit, because I'm using the Dex, which is +0, because it's kind of like a whip, technically. It's long tentacles. Semantics. Plus proficiency. So, +2. To hit, reach of 10 feet, one creature per Rotting Touch. So, like, if there's 8 party members and you roll 2d4 and you get 8, you could technically hit each of them once. Hit, it does 4 or 1d8 necrotic damage. And that is the Violet Rutter Brute. The first one for the episode, and technically the second Fantasy Fusion Fiasco creature. But yeah, that's just like a little example of the kind of stuff that you can expect from this series, and I'll probably throw these into either a Coliseum or a Wizard's Tower or something. Like, I'll probably pull, like, if you ever watched Spy Kids, I want to say it was 3. Might have been 2. Spy Kids, where there's the mad scientist who has, like, all the monsters that he's created. Well, what if you did, like, a mad wizard, or mad scientist, wizard, whatever, that made all of these creatures, and, like, hires adventurers to come in and fight them to see whether or not they're dangerous enough, or kidnaps people to fight them, or something crazy. But yeah, that is that for this episode. Thank you very much for joining me. I had a lot of fun for this. Thank you again, Dina, for letting me cop your general idea of taking 3 things and making them into one thing, and letting me put my own thematic D&D spin on it. But yeah, thank you for joining me, and I hope to do many more episodes. If you have any ideas, or if you have any art, you can send them to the Twitter. I also have a Patreon. I don't know how to link that to my page, but I'll still just put it in the description and stuff. But yeah, thank you very much for coming, and this is Charlotte, signing out.